guys, I am here today with Will. If you've been around a while, you will remember Will. Will used to be the face of the Vintage Booktube channel and is now the face of the Waterstones YouTube channel. We're going to answer your questions today about the book trade. We've asked for questions. Also, we've done this Bookshop dash, which seemed like it was going to be a really good idea. But actually, I mean, it was, but also it made us really panicked.
A bit scary, yeah.
Yeah, we are at Piccadilly Waterstones. Is it the largest Waterstones in the UK?
Piccadilly is not just the largest Waterstones in the UK, it's the largest bookshop in Europe. 6 floors of books. There are, I think, 150,000 different titles. It's absolutely immense. And if you haven't been, and you love bookshops, you have to go to Waterstones Piccadilly because you will just walk around and kind of go, I'm in church.
And there is a bar and a cafe as well, and a really good view out of London. Looking out at London. I will insert a clip here so that you can see the view that we are looking out of behind us. Yes, so we decided that we would dash around the bookshop when no one was there and try and grab some titles, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. We just want to talk to you over a cup of tea about the book trade. Okay, when did you initially start working in Bookish Things? That's a good place to start.
That is a good place to start.
Yeah.
So I suppose I started to work in Bookish Things.
What's this?
Well, so professionally, only just over 4 years ago, but before that I started my book blog. I decided to write a review of every book I read.
Okay.
And I did that for about 5 years, and I met the Booktube community, and so I mean that would have been 2008 is when I started doing that. So when social media was just starting to really kind of become a thing.
Let me say you're a proper old timer.
I'm so old.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
I've been there since the beginning of the internet.
Since the beginning of the internet.
Yeah.
When did I start working in Bookish Things? 2007 I started working as a bookseller. So that was me starting to work in the book trade, and then I worked as a bookseller for 10 years, and now I work freelance in the book industry, and it's great. Well, actually, another question was your favourite interview that you've done. So maybe that's a good one to go on to after this.
Yeah.
Because we interview authors a lot. I do that for my podcast, and Will does it on the Waterstones channel, which I'll link down below, and you should go and check out.
You should. I don't know if I have a single favourite interview. I think the thing that I really like is when you go to meet an author and to talk to them about their work. I suppose I like 2 things. I like it when they're lovely. So that I've been lucky enough to meet some incredible people who are really quite famous, you know. So one time I went to go meet Malala, to interview Malala, and I just thought, I can't believe this is actually happening. And that was slightly embarrassing in a way because we were filming it in a hotel, and just before me I think was the BBC, who had all this amazing equipment. And then I went in there with my iPhone and my tripod, and I just felt really amateur. But she was completely adorable and lovely and open, and it was just great, and I love it when that happens. And then I love it when a conversation goes off tangent, so that when you're preparing for an interview, obviously you read a book and you prepare some questions, but I really like it when it gets conversational and you just find out something you weren't expecting to find out. And that happens every now and then, and it's always the better interviewer.
I really enjoyed interviewing Sarah Jessica Parker.
Wow.
So this is another question. It's a book that you discovered because of the book trade.
Yeah.
So I was asked to interview Sarah Jessica for the release of A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza, which was the first book that she picked for her Hogarth series. And I'll be honest, I was that was a job for me to do, and I wasn't sure of it. I'd never heard of the book before, and I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, and I wasn't sure. Sometimes you get celebrities who get behind book projects, but they're not that into it. They're just doing it as something they can just shove their name on. But when I met her, she was delightful, and she was so invested in the book and in Fatima, and it was my favourite read of last year, and it was just incredible. And we just ended up talking in a hotel and crying about this book. We were like, we can't look at each other because we're just going to keep crying. Siobhan says, do you have any recommendations for bi-representation in upcoming releases? Well, there's a book coming out called Girl Aquarium, which you should probably read. If you own, let's finish with this one and then we'll talk about our bookshop dash.
Okay.
If you owned your own bookshop, what would it be called? Would it have a theme?
I think naming bookshops is really hard.
I can't think of a name, but we can talk about what it would be like.
Yeah, I just think any bookshop that I've gone into and loved, it's got to reflect the personality of the bookseller, I guess, hasn't it?
Yes. So we're going to use that word curated, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's going to be curated.
It's going to be curated.
Yes.
But I think almost more than sort of what's actually there, you want to be able to go to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about,
Yes.
and through that conversation, they'll be able to point you in the right direction or recommend something that you wouldn't have thought of. So actually, do you know, there used to be a bookshop called Crockett and Powell down in near Waterloo, and my dad used to go to it a lot. He used to talk about this bookshop all the time, and I finally went there and met Crockett and Powell, and they were just two enthusiastic guys, and that bookshop was, I don't know, it was always felt like when you looked at a table, there was always, everything was interesting on it, and it was kind of connected. So that thing of curation, as you say, it just shows that the bookseller knows what they're talking about, that they haven't just slapped some books on a table, that there is some kind of curation going on there.
I don't really know. I helped Libreria set up when they were opening a few years ago, and I really like what they've done with their space. It's in conjunction with Second Home, and it's in Shoreditch. It's very Shoreditch. It's very Shoreditch. So yeah, I did bookshop consultancy with them when they were opening, and they have a really small space, but they have this huge mirror at the back which makes it look like the place is twice as big. And then they have a basement where they run workshops, and they organise all the books by theme, which is quite cool. It's a really good vibe. I recommend going there. But I think if I was to open a bookshop, I would maybe want to open a travelling bookshop, because they are my ultimate faves. I know that from a business point of view they're quite impractical, because you can't build on your customer base because you're travelling around all the time. I know that, but they're cool. So my friend Sarah runs a bookshop on a barge, called the Book Barge. And
good name.
It's a good name. And she has a bunny rabbit called Napoleon Bunny Part. Which is great. And she used to travel around the canals in the UK, and now she's mostly based in France, where she's called Le Book Barge, actually. And she's written a book called The Bookshop That Floated Away, which I'll link in the description box. Okay, should we show them what we did?
Yeah.
Bookshop Dash. Okay, so Bookshop Dash. Did we explain that?
No,
I'm not sure that we explained. Okay, so we decided that before the bookshop was open, but there weren't that many people here, that we would give each other 1 minute to run around the first floor of Waterstones Piccadilly and pick out 3 books. Do you have 4?
No.
I have 4.
You got, that's true.
I panicked. I got 2 for 1 category.
Okay.
So the first category was our favourite book of the year so far.
Yep.
Second category was a book that you would recommend to everybody, and the third category was a book that we spied that we liked the look of but we'd never heard of before. And yeah, it got quite manic. I'll insert that clip here.
Your timer is set for 1 minute.
Oh, it's going well. It started already. Where's it going?
And how much time have I got left?
You have 20 seconds.
What? What looks good?
You're swapping. Okay, you're swapping. Swap.
Okay. Stop the clock.
There you go.
Go.
Okay, I really don't like this actually. How long do I have left?
I think your time has just run out.
No, it hasn't. Definitely not.
It just vibrated.
No. Yeah, okay, now it did.
Okay.
Okay, so the first category was to pick our favourite book of the year, and we're really predictable. And what did we pick? Yeah, we both picked
You
that.
actually picked the same
We
book.
actually picked the same book, but we thought this was probably going to happen. We're just fangirls / fanboys, aren't we?
Yeah.
Love it. So, yeah. Do we need to talk about Lanny? I feel like we've both talked about Lanny a
We've
lot.
already talked about it a lot. I think the thing is that if you're looking for your favourite book of the year so far, that's quite a tricky thing to do. But the stupid thing is that I read this literally on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
One of those books that if you can go into a bookshop and pick it up and read, the experience of reading the physical copy of this book is really important, because that's part of the theme in the book, is about the physical.
But the audiobook though is really good too.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, well I'm rereading it, listening to the audiobook. I'm glad I read it.
Yeah.
Like in this form first, but the audiobook's so good because it's different actors, and
It's got multiple voices for all
so
that.
it's really good. I think it works very well. So yeah, whatever form, like audio, visual, you do you.
Just read
It's
it.
great. I'll link. You interviewed Max recently. I'll link that in the description box, and I'll link my review in the description box down below. Okay, a book that you would recommend to everybody.
Okay,
It's
so
hard.
this is really hard, and the reason why I picked the book I'm going to show you is because through a conversation on Twitter it came up again, and it reminded me that the book is absolutely amazing, and it might not be for everybody actually, because it's very specifically...
Is any book.
Is any
actually
book, yeah, but it's very specifically about the kind of a marriage falling apart.
Okay.
And so I guess a lot of people might be like, oh, I really don't want to read that. But Department of Speculation by Jenny Offill is an utterly incredible book. And I think one of the reasons why it's so amazing is because you can see it's quite a thin book, but the initial draft that she wrote of this book was gigantic, and she cut it down and down and down and down, and she just filleted away until she had got rid of anything that could be considered chaff.
Sold! Okay, this is the one I picked up too for, because I initially picked up Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman, which is amazing, but also why did I pick this up? Because I wouldn't recommend this to everybody. Like, it's a really specific recommendation. So this is about Einstein coming up with his theory of relativity, but it's about his dreams. So he's having all of these dreams where time manifests in different ways. So, like, one way you can walk through, like, the centuries, one where if you climb higher, then time goes by quicker or slower, I can't remember. Science. But it's really, really good, but also, like, really surreal. And yeah, I recommend this book a lot, but it actually is not one that I would recommend to everyone. So I went down a predictable route and I picked up The Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss, because when in doubt, Sarah Moss.
When in doubt, Sarah Moss.
When in doubt, Sarah Moss. So this is about a teenage girl who collapses at school and her heart stops, and then the doctors don't know why that happened. She's okay. That's not a spoiler, that happens very near the beginning. It's about her dad, Adam, and how the family's kind of trying to figure out how you go forward, not knowing what happened to your daughter and realising it could happen again, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I recommend this one.
Sold.
Yeah, there you go.
I've been meaning to read Sarah Moss for ages.
I'm sorry, you haven't read Sarah Moss?
No, let's just, okay. I'm sorry.
So a book that you picked up that you hadn't seen?
Yeah, so I've picked up, it's called Guest Book, and then you can just see embossed on the cover, underneath it says Ghost Stories by Leanne Shapton. So Leanne Shapton is an author who I know of, but I haven't had a chance to read this yet. And she is sort of an artist author, and she had one book that I suppose made her name, which was, it's like an auction catalogue, basically, the book. Okay. And through the auction catalogue, through this group of objects that are being auctioned, you find out the story of a marriage falling apart. I've just realised exactly the same as Jenny Offill's book. Okay. But it's about this couple are splitting up and they're auctioning all their stuff off, and you find out the story of that through the photographs and the descriptions of the items. This is a series of ghost stories which are told through found photographs, which there's just this weird thing. So there's here we are. There's a selection of photographs of beds.
Can we show the people?
Show the people. So just some really old, blurry black and white photographs of beds. Leanne Shapton, I think, she's just a really interesting writer because she's always trying to do something a bit different. And I like the feel of this cover.
A naked hardback.
It's published by Particular Books, who always do amazing production on their books. And so, yeah, yum.
Cool. Well, I picked up this one, which I know nothing about, but I saw that it is a Tilted Axis book, and Tilted Axis Press was set up by Deborah Smith, who is a Korean translator. She translated to vegetarian, and I really love what she's doing. So this is called The Devil's Dance. Okay, so this says, on New Year's Eve in 1938, it's about a writer who is taken from his home by the Soviet secret police and then is taken to a prison where he tries to reconstruct a novel that he started writing at home. Nice. Which is about a poet queen. I know, so that sounds really interesting. So yeah, I love what they do. So I would recommend the press as a whole. Will and I are now going to record a video for the Waterstones channel. So I'll link that in the description. There's a lot of linking going on.
There's a lot of links. But this one will be important because I'm going to be talking to Jen about her stuff, and whilst that's going to be mortifying for her, it's going to be great.
It's the first interview that I'm doing about my poetry collection. So I need to be on it. I'm going to be on it and remember the book that I've written, which is always difficult. Anyway, so we're going to go film that now. Go check out the Waterstones YouTube channel, check out the videos of what it's doing, subscribe. I hope you guys are having a great week, and we'll see you very soon. Lots of great stuff. Bye.